Numerous restaurants have been shut down and many are expected to close in the near future. Today, we speak to the voice of the restaurant industry, the president of NRAI, which is the National Restaurant Association of India, representing over 5 lakh restaurants from India. Getting a perspective then on the impact of the pandemic and as well as the revival during the Unlock 1.0 for the restaurant space. Let's welcome Mr. Anurag Katria. So hi Anurag, thank you so much for taking out the time and joining us on Curly Tales. To begin with, with the pandemic, the restaurant industry has been battling, and industry leaders are indicating that 1 out of 4 restaurants may never open again. NRAI represents over 5 lakh restaurants all over India. If you can clear the air for us and tell us what has been the sentiment from the restaurant side.
So first of all, thank you for having me here, Kamya. It's lovely to be here.
Thank you.
Well, things are actually as bad as you hear. That's actually the sad fact. I don't know whether one quarter of the restaurants will never open up, because I believe that this is going to impact the restaurants in larger cities more than the smaller cities, because the cost dynamics are very different in larger cities, so chances of closures are higher. See, this is an unprecedented crisis. Nothing was ever seen even remotely close to this. I've been in the trade for almost 3 decades, and I've never seen something as severe as this. We don't have any past learning, and we are genuinely fighting a battle for our existence. So as things stand, yes, I think in larger cities for sure, maybe up to 30% of the restaurants will never get back on their feet. The smaller cities may suffer a little less.
Okay. And from what I understand, the NRAI in fact decided to shut down the restaurants even before the government mandate was announced on lockdown. And I understand it's been over 3 months. While
Yes.
restaurants haven't opened in Mumbai, what about other parts of India? What's the current status?
So some cities have opened up, like some states have allowed, Delhi, Bangalore, Calcutta, for example, but they are coming with lots of restrictions. So number one, the restriction is in the operating hours, because there is a national curfew at 9 p.m., which means your guest order has to be last taken at 7:15, 7:30 or thereabouts, which essentially means there is no dinner service. In India, we're not used to a 7 o'clock meal for dinner.
Yeah.
Then we have restriction on number of people sitting in a restaurant, because now you cannot have more than 50% of your available seats being occupied. Number 3, there is still restrictions on serving alcohol. And on top of that, the consumer sentiments and the hygiene feel is not the best. So wherever we have started, it's a very dismal start yet. It's a start, all right. But I think we are not looking at more than 15-20% of our erstwhile revenues right now in the cities that we have opened. So yeah, it's getting gloomier, but I'm sure there is some light at the end of the tunnel somewhere.
Well, it clearly looks like a gloomy picture at this point of time. But how much time do you envisage for the restaurant industry to get back on its feet?
Honestly, Kamya, there are so many unknown variables. When will the vaccine be found? When will we have an antidote? How much of that, fear of corona in the air will be in our minds? Lots of unknown factors. We don't know. We don't even know. Honestly, I think even the total number of eventual deaths, mortality, will also decide the sentiments of the consumers. I mean, you will react very differently if the mortality is, say, sub 10,000 versus, say, plus 25K. So all these things are there. I personally feel that this current financial year is definitely gone. If I look at some of the reports which have come out by some consultants, they look even bleaker. But I'm an eternal optimist. I believe eating out will never go out of fashion, and people will sooner than later come back to us. It's just that we need enough muscle to survive this phase so that we can probably thrive later.
Have you been tracking how internationally restaurant space is doing at this point of time? I understand that the government has also given them enough support, for sustenance. So are there any cues being taken from the international markets?
So in terms of, yes, the government support, yes, many countries have lent very good support to the trade. I can count on Italy, for example, has done a lot. UK has done a lot in supporting the restaurants. US has done its bit. But similar things have not come to us in India. I think the sheer size is very different. I mean, our population is probably 20x of UK. So it's not the same thing. But as far as business performance is concerned, all these countries are also suffering similar fates.
And I understand that the NRI has been in constant conversations with the government about providing some sort of relief to the people and the industry. So has there been
Yeah.
any progress on that front?
There have been some progress, but not very satisfactory, to be honest. And this is especially surprising, Kamya, because what we were seeking was more like a liquidity and policy support more than doles, which could have put extra pressure on the exchequer. We totally understand that currently the exchequer is pretty exhausted and it's tight. But I don't think changing a policy or giving us some better liquidity support was so difficult. We did get some liquidity support in the announcement that was made by the Honorable Finance Minister, because now we are covered under MSME Act. So there is some liquidity coming. We did not find any mention in the address of the Finance Minister in those 5 days of stimulus package, but we did have a one-on-one meeting with her and a couple of her secretaries. A few days later, we expressed our immediate concerns. There is some movement happening. I wouldn't say there is no movement happening, but nothing concrete has emerged as yet. So we are still sitting in hope, hoping something will happen someday.
Also, the new guidelines don't seem to be very financially viable in terms of how strict the laws are, as you were mentioning a little while ago. So has there been any negotiation on that front, or do you think that is the need of the hour given the way the COVID-19 spread is happening?
As far as people distancing norms are concerned, I think we all have to take cognizance of that. But at the same time, they can be done more intelligently. I understand a distance between two tables have to be X feet. But if it's a booth style sitting where you are not facing each other, why do you need that 6 feet? So what we have done is, see, these are the advisories given by the Union Home Ministry, but health is a state subject. So we have created our own handbook and we are coordinating with various state governments to come up with what I call more practical guidelines, which is creating a sense of security, sense of calm in the consumers without creating that sense of fear and panic. So we have made, it's a very detailed document, and as we speak, we are interacting with various state governments, and we are very hopeful that they will understand what we are saying. We are not against the public safety, but we think that you need to mix it with a bit of practicality.
Restaurant is a place where we all like to get social. The fun is when a restaurant is packed. But with new guidelines and safety precautions, that clearly seems to be a distant dream. So, what's the new normal of dining, and will it be fun?
I think that's one thing that I've been talking to all my restaurant friends, that we should give our guest a similar environment, similar experience, with not like something OTT, what I call safety and hygiene norms, with somebody wearing like a full suit and serving you. That'll be too dramatic. But you can still give them the experience of a safe dining,
Yeah.
where the food is at the epicenter of their experience. However, the bars, the nightclubs, yes, they are gonna suffer, because that's the nature of the beast. Unless we find an antidote, I think that sector will continue to suffer, and so will be the banquet sector, I feel, because there'll be restrictions on number of people in a party, and people distancing norms. I mean, really, it wouldn't be very good to look at people dancing with the masks on. It'd be quite weird. And you have come too close now. Move on. Here, 6 feet distance while dancing. So that those things will suffer. I think it'll pick up first from the deliveries, then dine in what I call food-centric restaurants, and then other things. They will take some time.
But how is the mood and general energy been of restaurants in Unlock 1.0 in cities where restaurants have opened? Have people gained confidence to go to their favorite restaurant or not as yet?
Not as yet, not as yet. That's a brutally honest answer. I think people are still skeptical. Some youngsters who are more adventurous by nature, they are coming out. But by and large, nobody wants to risk their family with all the fear going around. For example, look at Delhi. The cases are going up every single day. Which parent will like to take their kids for a dine out in such a scenario? It's not going to happen. So I think it's an unfair expectation also. So yes, we are. The way I look at it is that segregating containment and non-containment zone is a very logically correct move, and this phased opening is the only way to open. Every sector is going to open like that. Look at airline; they started with 52 flights in the entire country on day one. They're slowly moving up. I think this is how the buildup will happen. Problem is, how do you survive financially during this period? It's very, very tough. That's a big challenge.
And how do you think restaurants are managing with that? Because that clearly is one of the biggest worries because the costs are not going down and the expenses remain the same and no revenue coming in.
So that's the big catch. And this is where I feel everybody who is part of the ecosystem, whether it is a restaurant owner, its employees, its guests, landlord, aggregators, whoever, everybody will have to come together with a common purpose of saving the sector. It is not about profiteering at the cost of each other, but unless we combine our efforts, you'll not be able to save the sector. That's a given. Number two, I think everybody should understand that business in the post-pandemic era can never, never, ever be conducted on the terms of pre-COVID era. What commercial terms worked or were agreed upon in pre-COVID era will not apply today. It is impossible because this is not like a little bit of incremental shift that we are seeing in business. This is a paradigm shift. You have to look at it afresh. And if that attitude comes in, I think we will all be able to save, and that 30-40% closure that we are talking about may go down a bit. If not, this number will only increase as we go.
Human beings are also very adaptable and they'll always find one way or the other. With restaurants shutting down, home deliveries is something that has picked up. Of course, not as good as the pre-COVID era. But do you see a new trend emerging out of this?
No, no, I don't see. What I see is though that maybe newer things like more fancier restaurants getting into a bit of delivery to augment their sales. Please understand, delivery at any level can never replace dining in business. Never, ever. That's not going to happen. Also, to correct you, while we are talking about that the delivery business being very good, it's at about 30% of the pre-COVID eras for people who are operating. So it's not like really looking very rosy, so to say. In certain cities where the cases are less, I think Bangalore is hitting more of 60% now with deliveries. But still, for heaven's sake, it's only 60. Only relative terms of 30, it looks good. But when you look at it against the prism of 100, it looks very low. So I think it's still tough times.
While government has given its set of directives, are there any set of guidelines that have been put in place by NRAI as well to keep a check or to ensure that restaurants are adhering to safety measures?
Yes, we have come up with that. We are going to make a formal announcement next week, hopefully. It's a very, very exhaustive document. And, at the expense of not sounding modest, let me tell you, I think this will be probably the most exhaustive, SOPs that the industry will see anywhere. We are even coming up with some training videos. You have to understand every employee is not going to read a manual. So we are creating videos for even people like a cook, a cleaning staff, so that they know exactly, and these are in Hindi. And we are even trying to work on local languages, not yet done, so that they understand what is expected of them.
So what's the employment rate at this point of time? Because last I read 20 lakh people had to be, unemployed in this sector.
So you're right on the numbers. As per India Food Service Report 2019, we give direct employment to 73 lakhs people in the sector. And I think those numbers that we are talking about of shutdowns and job losses are all, in a way, estimates right now, because the whole sector has not opened up yet. We will know. But I definitely feel that by the end of this pandemic, we will probably see upwards of 40% of the people in the sector losing jobs. Because, see, I mean, we, as much as we may like to be politically correct, the fact is, if the business volumes are low, it will have a direct impact on the employment numbers. So this is the unfortunate fact. But this is how the sector is playing up. Unfortunate, but this is the reality of life right now. We are going to see lots of our people losing jobs.
Okay, that's a bit unfortunate. But
Very unfortunate.
yes, there's also been a lot of buzz around the fact that many restaurants will now start exploring options in terms of joining hands with delivery services or aggregators, or even come up with their own delivery service. So, is there any truth to this?
Yes, this could be, as I said a little while earlier. Now the consumption will be based purely on your reputation and the kind of sense of security you give to your consumer. The confidence you give to the consumer that I'm ordering from a right place. And that is where people with established names will stand a better chance than some cloud kitchen which is tucked away somewhere behind the beyond. If I give you a very simple example, if I want to order a pizza in whichever neighborhood of Mumbai we are sitting in, and say you have two options. One, let's say a standard name like Domino's, and second one is my uncle's pizza next door. Even if I know that my uncle's pizzas are more tastier than Domino's, I think most families prefer ordering from Domino's for a simple reason, because they think they will have better systems and procedures to control the virus. And the same theory will apply, Kamya, on the larger restaurants. People will not mind paying that $100 more for getting it from a good restaurant.
Okay, thank you so much for talking to us and shedding some light on the perspective in the restaurant industry, as well as the impact and the revival plan. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kamya, for having me here. Thank you so very much.